Yes.
Yes, sir.
Call to order the Monday, April 27, 2020 electronic meeting of the Signal Mountain Town Council. We will begin with the pledge, followed by a moment of silence. I don't think there's anyone online for an invocation today. So, Sam, if you will get us a flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll pause for a moment of silence now. All right, thanks everyone. Bill, you may have to hit start video again. Carol, will you take roll, please?
Certainly. Vice Mayor Amy Speak does not appear to be present. Councilmember Cheryl Gray.
I'm here. Sorry, I was on mute.
Thank you. Councilmember Cheryl Graham.
Here.
Councilmember Bill Lusk.
Here.
Councilmember Susanna Murdoch.
Here.
And Mayor Dan Landrum.
Here. First thing we have today is we have two sets of minutes, don't we? Yeah. I'll make a motion to approve, then we can discuss any changes.
Second.
Carol, I found just a couple of minor typo kinds of things that I'll send you an email on.
Unless you go ahead and say them, I can't change them after you guys have approved.
On the first paragraph, on the first set of minutes, discussion 1, Councilmember Murdoch it should be seconded the motion. And I think there's another one like that, but I may not have it marked, and I was going to go back and do it. So if you want to fix that one.
I will fix that one, certainly.
Anyone else have any comments about the minutes?
No.
No.
I think it was important that we look at these carefully because they had dates in them as to actions that we took. And Boyd, if you had a chance to scrutinize those and make sure that we're not in conflict with anything. I think our resolutions laid it all out right, but I didn't see anything.
I think we're good.
Okay. Carol, will you take a roll call vote on approval of the minutes, please?
Vice Mayor Amy Speak.
Approve.
Councilmember Cheryl Graham.
Yes.
Councilmember Bill Lusk.
Yes.
Councilmember Susanna Murdoch.
Yes.
And Mayor Dan Landrum.
Yes. Next, we have a, go ahead.
Mayor, if I may, I don't think we actually said, just for the record, those are the March 17 and March 30
Thank you.
meeting minutes.
All right, next we have a resolution. Is that correct? I'm bouncing back and forth on this PDF.
Citizens opportunity.
Anybody else see anything differently?
Yes, citizens opportunity.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you very much. I was down at the resolution. Yes, it's time for citizens opportunity to address the council. We have at least one person who has called in today. Sam, can you put Tom Francescan on the line?
He is on.
Next we have a resolution.
So, Tom, if you can still hear me, you've got to turn the feed from your computer off and listen only on your telephone. Let's give him a second. It's about a 15-second delay, and then he should be free to speak. Boy, it's longer than that. You guys hear that going on?
Today, Sam, can you put Tom Francescan on the line? So, Tom, if you can still hear me, you've got to turn the feed from your computer off. And listen only on
Instant
your phone.
replay, guys.
Give him a second, about a 15-second delay. Okay.
So
Can you hear me?
now we can hear you, Tom. So make sure you've got that feed turned off. And
Okay, yeah. Now I put it on mute. Is that okay?
yeah, that's perfect. So just for the record, say your name and your address, and then feel free to speak.
Sure. Okay. Tom Francescan, 905 Crown Point Road West. Now, I'm assuming they're hearing me. I can't tell from
Yes.
from where I am, but okay. Any rate, my comments in this, and I see, of course, by the agenda that you will be addressing some of this here shortly. I sent out an email about a week ago, and this is comment on the reopening of the town, if you will, and I'm just hopeful and encourage you to consider doing what you can to open up every aspect of the town. I think it's pretty obvious, at least to me. I think a lot of other people that we're ready to move on with life. And so that would be my hope and my encouragement. So thank you for allowing me the time to speak.
All right. Thank you. Sam,
Just sign off then?
Yes. And I assume that's the only person. Carol, do you need anything? Is that all worked out?
That's everything I needed, so.
Okay. All right. Now we move to resolutions. We have a resolution authorizing the award of a contract to Lawson Electric Company in an amount not to exceed $28,927 for electrical service upgrades in the town of Signal Mountain swimming pool pump room, and authorizing the town manager to execute any necessary documents in connection with this award. And so Boyd, I'll let you talk about this, but just starting out, this was budgeted, right? This one?
Well, we have funds budgeted for facilities maintenance that can be used for this. This wasn't a specific project that was budgeted. And while this is accurate that it is an upgrade, it is just as accurate to say that it's a repair. Most of this was not evident until some things happened that came to our attention. And as we started investigating and got electricians to assess the situation, as you can imagine, in a pump room, in a swimming pool with chemicals and water and all of that, that over decades now, there's been a lot of deterioration that, again, wasn't evident until we got in there and started looking at some issues. And the problems are fairly extensive. And this will upgrade it so that hopefully we eliminate the potential for a repeat in the future, moving some services so that they're not coming up through the slab and they're higher elevation, thus not susceptible to water and moisture and stuff such as that. So this is work that really needs to be done. It's not just an improvement or an upgrade. It's repairs that will have to be done, and in the process we're trying to make sure that we don't have to revisit it any time in the near future.
Did you bid this one?
Yes, it was bid. We had two bids on it, and they were very close together, just a few $100s apart actually. And Lawson was a low bid, and staff reviewed the bids and made sure that they were inclusive, and it looks like they are performing all the work we need and all the appropriate documentation with the bid packet, and thus the recommendation for that award.
I guess we should entertain a motion and then discuss it further. Anyone?
So moved.
Second.
I'm sorry, was that Susanna?
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am.
Were these bid prior to the work slowdown?
I don't recall when the bid packet went out, but it was just a few weeks ago. We opened the bids latter part of this past week, but maybe even Thursday.
Anybody anticipating? We may see a bit of reverse inflation, I guess, is what I'm wondering about on some of our bids in the future. And we're right on the cusp of, we don't really know how this is all going to shake down. Anyway, that was just a thought. Anybody?
Again, I don't remember when it was advertised, but the bids were due. So contractors had the ability to bid appropriate to our current situation because they didn't have to turn them in until it was either Thursday or Friday.
Okay.
So we've had a first and a second. Are we just waiting to vote? Did I miss something?
We're in discussion. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It's all right. So do we anticipate, I mean, this is something you say needs to be done. I trust you on that. Do you anticipate the pool is going to, it's hard to anticipate it, is going to open at the regular time?
That I don't know. And frankly, that's a question. There's no doubt in my mind that we need to do this work before the pool opens. When the pool is going to open, and that's the time frame in which we need to get it done is a question. If I felt there was a significant likelihood that we could get the work done for reduced cost, or that we would certainly have more time, then I probably wouldn't have brought it at this time. But
yeah, it sounds like we need to do it. Is everyone ready to vote?
Yes.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Carol, will you take a roll call vote, please?
Vice Mayor Amy Speak,
Yes.
Councilmember Cheryl Graham,
Yes.
Councilmember Bill Lusk,
Yes.
Councilmember Susanna Murdoch,
Yes.
Mayor Dan Landrum.
Yes. Carries 5-0.
Amy, that was a nice way of saying I call the question.
Well, I think there are things we need to discuss and there are things we need to just move on. But yeah, you're right.
I got to remember that.
All right. We have no ordinances on the agenda today. Discussion, recycle, reopen plan. Where are we, Boyd? Can we somehow?
yes, and that's really all three of these discussion items are obviously related. And last week we pretty much had in place a plan that would allow us to open the recycle center as basically a drive-through facility, so that one car could come through at a time. We would have room for stacking vehicles and people in line, where one car could come through, unload their stuff, pull out, the next car could come up. And pretty much immediately upon getting that figured out and arranged with our vendors and getting some of the containers moved and such, then the announcement came that there would be a change in restrictions from the state level. So instead of initiating that ahead of this discussion and then potentially needing to change that, we just held our position on everything until we get this meeting today to get council's position on whether we want to operate with that level of restriction or with other businesses opening, if that changes your position on how we deal with our town
will lead into all the other things that we have to discuss about this. The governor's orders don't change for us as a town what we do with our facilities.
Correct.
I mean,
They change the environment in which we operate, but they don't directly relate to our facilities.
Right. And so hearing from Dr. Burks, as late as yesterday, saying that we're likely to have social distancing with us throughout the summer, I propose that we move forward with plans that allow us to continue to move in the direction that would have allowed social distancing a week ago. So would you give us any details you can on what that would look like?
For
recycle.
Just recycle?
Yeah.
The plan, not anticipating this change from the state to come as quickly as it did. The plan was simply to, the gravel lot adjacent to the recycle lot would be the entrance and would allow for stacking of several vehicles. They could pull into the far gate, which is generally just where the trucks that go in to pull the containers pull in. And then they could loop around. We've moved some of the curb stops in the parking space directly in front of the main gate, so people could pull through and stop, unload the recycle, and then pull out of the gate that we use for pedestrian traffic usually. So it would just be a loop, one way in, one way out, and the area where the controls for the compactors are would be taped off, so the person operating those from Orange Grove would be in a rather contained, safe area. And then we could still take recycling, single stream, cardboard, and glass. Be a relatively slow process, but we could open it up that way and maximize the social distancing in the facility.
So as the cars are pulling, they've gone through the gravel lot and they've come around back through. If they're unloading their normal recycle, will they still be putting their own cardboard in the compactor?
Yes.
I need a picture.
Go, Cheryl.
I said I need a picture. I'm having a difficult time visualizing this. When you talk about the cars stacking up, waiting their turn, how many cars will be able to do that before we have an issue? I'm just picturing.
Measured it specifically, but I would think we would have at least 15 vehicles that could queue up.
And that's coming from the town hall side, correct?
Correct.
Not from the downtown part. So anyone coming from the other direction will have to go down, turn around town hall or somewhere and come back this way, right?
They shouldn't have to do that.
I see. It sounds like you're concerned about traffic stacking up out onto the road.
Yeah, I'm a little worried.
We're not talking about on the highway now.
Just the gravel lot.
Just the gravel lot. Okay.
And the plan was to schedule it as we have with the transfer station, so that
okay.
I was going to suggest that. Yeah.
Okay.
You have a specific day, so it meters out the participation. Hopefully it would be Monday through Friday.
Okay.
Again, providing opportunity, but minimizing the chance for really large crowds.
Okay. I was picturing every citizen in their car deciding at the same time with loads of cardboard. Yeah, that'll work.
Still could happen, but.
Still could happen. But
it could.
Yeah.
Boyd, and I think too, and correct me if I'm wrong, Council, I feel like our job is probably more to determine whether or not we want to open it utilizing social distancing. And I think like we leave it up to the department for how because they're doing it, that's their job. And I think they probably have a better idea than we do how that flow will work. And if it's not working, we can always revisit it and Boyd's going to be overseeing it. Does anyone else can come way off?
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Nope.
I said we open it.
Yeah. I think social distance opening, it sounds like a great plan. Yeah. Make a lot of people happy.
How soon could it happen, Boyd?
We can have it open later this week. Again, we were pretty much set. We just need to get with Orange Grove and get them scheduled and give them a little bit of heads up. But we'll have it open that manner probably by midweek.
Okay. And Orange Grove has agreed to this arrangement?
Yes.
Good.
And again, we really tried to facilitate a whole different arrangement so that it would work a little quicker and easier. But that facility and the way it's laid out, the fact that we have compactors now, we can't just move those. You know, we spent a good bit of time trying to come up with a better scenario, and just weren't able to work that. So I think if the desire is still to maximize social distancing, this is our best scenario, and then we tweak it from there once we get a little experience with it.
Yeah, maybe put it on the agenda, on the next agenda, to kind of just get an update and see how it's going. But I think it sounds good. And I don't know, do I make a motion to approve?
Well, I think
reopening the recycle center?
I think consensus works with this, doesn't it, Boyd?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We're good.
Thank you, Boyd, for doing all that.
No, that's mostly the staff.
Thank you, staff, whoever's listening.
All right, use of recreation facilities. Now, this one is maybe a little more complex because we have a varied set of recreation facilities, from things that can open and things that actually can't even open under the state. Playgrounds, for instance, the equipment is still closed in state parks. What is the county's stance on that, Harry? Do you recall?
On what county stance on
playground equipment? Did Jim speak to that, Mayor Coppinger?
I don't recall hearing him say anything about it.
We do know in the state parks that have been reopened, they're keeping the playground equipment closed, all facilities closed, all overnight camping closed. And it sounds like we could have our parks open or our parks closed. That's pretty much up to us to decide what we do. We're still under no groups of 10 or more. So you get into the situation of a bunch of people show up to play basketball or baseball or something, then we've got a problem. Same thing with our gym. I'm just speaking out loud and everybody else chime in. Tennis seems like it's an easy one to open that one back up because it's small groups playing. I know though in Nashville, they opened it up for singles only, which is interesting because family members, could be playing tennis together. This is our area.
I certainly agree with keeping the playground equipment off limits for the moment. Get the message out that social distancing is expected, and having a mask with you would be a good idea. I don't think we should open Rainbow Lake in the foreseeable future because it attracts such large crowds from places other than here. But Shoal Creek on Sundays, Green Gorge, those other trails, I think would be fine.
Yeah, I would agree with that, as well as the tennis courts. But like you said, Rainbow Lake, that may take a while.
What if and I don't, this is not an attempt to try to be fair about everything because you have to do what you need to do with the different places in this. But if the parking lot remains closed, at least through the next council meeting for Rainbow Lake, and people who live nearby could walk to there, just like they can walk to Shoal Creek, to that park area. What about that as an option? That would be following basically what the state is doing, with the exception of still a little bit more strictness because you're not allowing parking yet. What do you guys think about that?
I only fear that we would end up as we did before with cars from elsewhere parked all along James Boulevard. Because the word seems to get out to folks from other places that
It's tough.
Rainbow Lake is open.
That would be really hard to monitor, I think.
Yeah.
It would.
What?
I think with social media too, people love saying had a great hike at Rainbow Lake today, and you know, and then it gives. I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of torn about the Rainbow Lake thing because I see it both ways, as I do with just about everything having to do with social distancing and this whole situation we're in. There's a counterpoint and point for every scenario you come up with, everything you try to do.
Right. I hate to take away from citizens to not allow, but part of the purpose of this is to try to ease back in and allow citizens to make good decisions. And even in the state parks, you're supposed to have a mask. If you encounter other people, you're supposed to put on a mask. That's in the guidelines from the governor. I agree with what you said, Bill, though, and Susanna also. It's hard to keep that out. I wish we had, even if they were giving away free city stickers of some kind, you know.
Well,
so
unless you stick it on your forehead, that's not going to do you a lot of good.
No, that solves the problem you were talking about with parking.
Parking. Well, what are you going to do if they're there? You have to go find them.
Right.
What if we tried it? What if we did it? We opened it for a week and did a trial period, let people try to police themselves, and if it becomes a problem, then we shut it down.
My issue with that is just like the whiplash that people get with all of these rules all the time. Like this week you can, this week you can't. Now we're gonna let you do it, and then we're not gonna let you do it. Like I almost think, like I totally see what you're saying, Amy, but I also think maybe we should just keep Rainbow Lake closed for another 2 weeks and let's revisit it. Like let's go ahead and open the other parks up and do that and see how it's going and see if there's a surge in cases, like, you know, some people think we're going to have. I mean, maybe try to be guided by, you know, some of the data that's around here.
Yeah, I don't have a strong opinion one way or the other. I'm more or less trying to find some sort of a compromise, but yeah, I see your point. So I'm fine with revisiting it in 2 weeks.
I get that too. I mean,
I'm not sure.
Wait and revisit in 2 weeks.
I had assumed we would do, you know, a phase in anyway, maybe 2, 3, or even 4 different phases of how things were going to open. So yeah, we could wait a couple of weeks.
Would it,
ready for that one?
Harry, is it possible, just as an alternative, to allow residents only and foot traffic in our park?
It is possible to pass to allow or permit that, but enforcement,
it's tough,
would be difficult.
All right then. Anybody else have any suggestions? So we just we have other recreational facilities. We have the MAC. What about tennis courts?
I think
I'm all for opening tennis.
Yeah, tennis courts, yes.
I think baseball fields are okay.
What's that?
Baseball fields, you're 6 feet apart.
I was going to suggest if we open up baseball fields for general use, but we keep them closed to organized sports that brings in more. And Jared has talked to the league folks, and they're pretty much resolved to that, and they're good with it. So we can open up the space for small groups, but restrict it to organized.
Okay.
Our indoor spaces are the gym and the MAC. Seems like they probably need to remain closed.
Especially the gym, I think.
Why don't we revisit that, both of those facilities in a couple of weeks?
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the plan being to reopen.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Because we're probably going to need a lot of questions.
All right, what are we missing here? What else do we need to talk about?
The pool.
Pool doesn't open until Memorial Day anyway. or yeah, Memorial Day.
Yeah.
So that's phase 20.
Yeah.
And speaking with Jared today, I think there's going to be a few challenges there. One, whether, if we get past whether we're comfortable with it or not. I think issues with hiring lifeguards, that usually in the last few weeks, these kids will have been getting their certifications and everything. And we may have a relatively small candidate pool there, but right now I still have serious concerns just about the prospect of that many bodies in that small space for literally hours upon hours at a time.
All right, is there anything we're missing that what about the parking spaces? We've got those closed up on Palisades right now.
How's that working out, Bill?
There's been a lot less traffic. The worst time was over Easter weekend when the weather was absolutely perfect and those lots were jammed. Still a lot of foot traffic and bicycle traffic. Same issues with some distancing and some not, but I think overall it's safe to say it's better.
Good.
We also put a speed sign, I think it was in the 300 block, right after our last meeting. So hopefully that's helped a little bit with slowing folks down, and we can maybe move that a little bit this coming week so that it's in a different spot, maybe get a few other people's attention.
Leave it like it is, folks, for now, for a couple more weeks.
Yeah, I'm great revisiting it the next time we would revisit all of these other facilities.
Yes, I think we're just going to have to every time we meet. I think we're going to have to sort of check in and see where we are.
Yeah, I agree.
Very good. All right. Boyd, is there anything else you think we're missing on rec facilities?
I think that covered. I think I have handle on all that. And if you don't mind, I would like to back up a step before it escapes me. One thing I didn't mention in the question that I had relative to recycle, again, where we're looking at trying to minimize the traffic and schedule people on certain days and all that, another thing that we thought about that has come up in the past is whether or not, especially now, we want to restrict use to residents only. It does get a significant amount of non-resident use. That's
a good point. Does it hurt us because we get some money still from cardboard, we would lose some of that cardboard recycle?
That's a very minimal amount. From a financial perspective, I certainly wouldn't weigh that over other issues to be considered in making that decision.
Well, because we have a traffic problem for now, it seems like at least for now that's reasonable. And it also, we don't do trash pickup for Walden, or for the county, so we couldn't tell them what day to come unless we had a day specifically for non-residents, which seems even stranger.
So who will be out there checking residence status? I mean, I haven't been to the transfer station since that all rolled into place. I've heard good things about it, but will we have someone out there checking, or can anyone get in line?
We will see how it goes, and if it's manageable levels, it may not be as much of a concern. But we see that it's being difficult to manage, that we may be more attentive to that. Okay. Is that a fair way of saying it?
Yes.
Right, and this isn't necessarily permanent. We could have a sign that says, this is temporary, residents only. Have to figure out how to word that carefully. The idea is not to start a fight, but we do need to manage the traffic for now.
All right, thank you very much.
What about, well, you're probably going to get into this in resumption of other services. And if you feel need to roll all this into the manager's report, you can do that as well. But we'll probably have questions about, as you get into other services like brush pickup, large item pickup, construction. Everyone and their uncle's been doing home projects and has piles of construction debris around their houses these days. So where are we on those things?
We are doing brush pickup. I think in this past week, and I meant to check with Loretta today and didn't get around to seeing where they are on mulching or brush chipping. One of the big issues that we had was the space we had for brush. We were pretty much maxed out, and then the chipper was coming in to do the chipping, and we were going to have to haul mulch out and all of that. So I think that's been either underway or is about to start. So, but I do know that they have been doing brush pickup. At this point, the construction materials and the bulky items all go into basically the same bin. And that's the one that, we really felt was going to be problematic with large quantities of that coming in, contractors coming in and using it on a significant level. And that's why we limited that, and none of that's really changed. We've been basically rotating staff out, given different functions, so that some are there during the early part of the day, getting the garbage truck out and the brush trucks and all of those things they come in, get ready, and they get out on the road before the center opens up for transfer station use. So it's worked relatively well, I think, all things considered. But there are some services that are still limited, and we'll see how it looks to add those to the mix.
How does it look to add those to the mix?
We'll see. That I think actually is I don't know if difficult is the right word, but as inconvenient as that may have been, I think of a few weeks of people figuring out the system and getting used to it, and a little more order to how things are working, because everybody knows the drill, I think helps us get perhaps to that ability a little quicker.
So you don't anticipate between now, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but just so that people can know what's coming, between now and the next council meeting, no change in large item pickup or construction debris or large item drop off?
Not extensively. We may be able to do some, but and that's really kind of why I put the general town operations as the last discussion. That really evolves around what approach we're going to take, and with the changes from the state, will we move towards a more normal operation, or as we have in other things, do we want to take another couple of weeks, see how things unfold, see how the business sector looks now that this change has happened, and then make a call. Again, with recycle, with transfer station, and certainly with town hall, that's really kind of where we've been at a loss to fully formulate a plan, because we weren't expecting this move from the state, and see how it's going to affect how we want to do business. But we are making plans in that direction. Something we should have done a while back, frankly, was glass partitions in the town hall. I can't remember being in a town hall anywhere else in a very long period of time when you have the open access that you do here. That was generally for security reasons, but now we've got another reason on top of that. So we're looking at how we can do those things and ultimately allow the needle to move more towards normal, but still safeguard our staff and citizens.
Do you want to explain what you've been looking at for instance, business at Town Hall, what that might look like?
Oh, the configuration is difficult in that it will have to be significantly restricted to literally one person at the counter at a time. Luckily, the lobby is large enough that we could structure it so that there are spaces for people to wait while not impeding the ability of whoever is at the counter to leave the building. So we'll just have to lay all that out and get some signage. Probably things as simple as a lot of stores have done, just putting marks on the floor. It's occasionally it would happen, but it's rare that we'd have more than 2, 3, maybe 4 people at a time. And again, we've got enough space to spread them out, but we're going to have to restrict counter access to one person at a time if we want to even approximate social distancing guidelines.
Another activity that takes place in that building is our council meetings, and it looks as if we will have, unless something changes, one more electronic meeting, and then the governor's order will have ended, and we'll need to go back to regular meetings. So we'll have that other meeting, but we can spread the seats out, and just our capacity will go down, right?
Correct.
And then you had mentioned maybe moving you and Harry off the dais in order to spread the counselors apart.
Right.
Did anyone or everyone read the Thursday article in Times Free Press about Vanderbilt's most recent study that May 20th was really considered kind of the downhill date? So I say that to say what's hurts in our keeping on with these virtual meetings until a later date.
The law won't allow us to unless unless the governor's order gets extended.
We could always ask.
We could, and I'm hoping, perhaps not as the norm, but at least in circumstances as we can do on the 911 board. If you can't be at a meeting, if you're out of town, but you're available to access it, and hopefully professional approach to these types of meetings and municipalities doing what they're supposed to do and how they are supposed to do it will open the door for having some options in the future at least. But I am hopeful that this portion of the provisions will be extended a little bit so that purely in-person meetings won't be as necessary as quickly.
Anybody else have any other questions regarding general town operations?
So just to wrap that up, along those lines of general operations, I just want to confirm that we're good to continue operations as we are for the next 2 weeks, with the exception of what we've discussed changing. And then at that time, we'll have a more detailed outline of what the move towards more normal might look like. Everybody's nodding, so I think
I see 3 nods. That looks like consensus to me. Okay. So manager's report.
The last couple of weeks have focused largely on the budget. We are winding that down on the pre-council meeting portion of it. Met with all department heads, and so we're putting everything together that came from that. So we should be in good shape to get it out to you guys well in advance of that meeting. We were contacted recently by the TDOT External Audit Division, which certainly catches your eye when something comes in from them. And they were doing a review or audit on the James Boulevard project. Loretta provided them all the requested information, documents, and everything, and just got an email today that they completed the review with no findings. So it sounds like we're closing out that project, and TDOT's happy with how we managed and facilitated that being done. That was a relief. The only other thing from our last meeting, I spoke with Art Trimble, who is the president of the Signal Mountain Golf and Country Club, and we discussed the liaison position. And when we discussed it last, I didn't recall, but our prior lease agreement actually is what said that there would be one of those, and the current lease does not require it, but Art certainly saw the benefit to that. But his suggestion is, and offer, is that as the president fairly recently elected or appointed, he would like to fill that role, and he will be in that position for another 20 months. So that would give us some continuity there as a direct line of communication with the president of the club. And he said just let him know if there's when and if there's anything that he can do, or there's a need for communication on a
Would he be just
topic.
like a liaison? Is this a liaison position between, so that sort of we have a point of contact at the Golf and Country Club?
Yes.
So that if we wanted to communicate with them or whatever, there's one consistent person that is kind of our go-to. And does he sit on any kind of committee, or is he just sort of, you know, the point person that you just send him an email or call him or something if you have a question?
He doesn't sit on a town committee. Again, he is the president of the club. So,
or I guess do any of us, would a council member sit on any kind of committee there, or I guess not? I don't know. I guess that wouldn't be normal.
I wouldn't think. I don't know that that's ever been the case. There's been a single person in the past that has served, and it's usually, in the past, it's been someone that they've appointed and town council has agreed to. But in this case, the president themselves is offering to be that point person. So I think it's a great
That's good
scenario.
Okay.
Sounds
and
great.
we exchange cell phone numbers and everything else. So I think at any point, if we need to communicate, we now have an open line of communications, and certainly a appropriate representative.
Sounds like a good solution. Thank you for doing that.
That's it.
All right. And we move on to other business now. I've got a couple of things that are follow-ups from our last meeting. Pull these up. I had two people to follow up with. They just so happened to be husband and wife, so there was this wasn't done on purpose. But one of the questions we talked about last week, I've been talking about for a while, is strategic planning. And I'm just going to read you really quickly what Hannah wrote back about strategic planning. This is Hannah with MTAS. She's our representative. She said they do provide strategic planning facilitation. The most recent one they did was in East Ridge. They do 2 to 3 a year, and they've facilitated them for small cities all the way up to the Chattanooga City Council. She sent a report from the East Ridge process, and I'll email that to everyone if that's okay, so you can take a look and see what that report would look like. She says any strategic planning session can be tailored to what the municipality would like as a result overall. They typically look forward 3 to 5 years at the most, but if you're looking for a long-range plan, we can certainly facilitate that as well. And there's more, but just to give you an idea, this is something that MTAS can help us with, and there's no charge. So
Awesome.
I'll send that out, and then everybody take a look at it, and then we can start figuring out what we might like to accomplish, sets as our benchmark for what this would look like for us. Is that good?
Good.
Sounds great.
We had a discussion last week about trails, and Josh Rogers wrote Boyd and me and said he listened to the council discussion about that. And he says he doesn't think we need a new board, and he thinks the current Parks Board can handle the trails on the mountain. And he acknowledged that the discussion that we had, I might have left that confused, and I think that was accurate. But he thinks we should move forward with a Parks Committee, if I'm understanding that correctly. But I guess what I'd like to do, if you guys don't mind, is ask Josh to come to the next council meeting and talk about that. Does that seem reasonable?
Wait, now what does he do?
So Josh is the head of the Parks Board. Yeah, I get Parks. Everybody gets Parks and Rec mixed up because of the show. Josh is the head of the Parks Board. The Parks Board, once upon a time, was really heavily involved physically with building many of the trails on Signal Mountain. Its role has changed somewhat over the years. Our trails are falling into disrepair a bit, and the idea is to maybe get more people back involved who want to be an active working trails portion of that board. Seems to be where Josh is leaning with that. So let's just bring him in and ask him questions and get their suggestions. Boyd, am I missing anything on that?
No, sir.
And that's it from me. Moving in, here's an opportunity. Well, we haven't had committees and boards meeting. We do have a planning commission meeting coming up next month. Reminder to all council members, make sure that you do check your Zarafa email, which everyone hates, and I probably just opened up a ugly can of worms right there, because we couldn't get a quorum for one of our last meetings. We didn't get some responses, so let's fix that. Communication from town council. Any other items?
I'm on the MAC board liaison, and I mean, all y'all know it's closed, and I know Cheryl and company have been working hard to get some things, continue to get things opened up and looking fabulous up there. So I'm glad they've had the chance to do that, and we are so appreciative and thankful for the Signal Mountain preservation element, whatever it's called. Whatever your board is called.
Those people, yeah.
You people that live up there.
It seems appropriate to talk about the idea that's been tossed around a bit about, we don't know what this, we know the summer's probably going to be a slow open for anything that involves crowds, and the success plan for a place like the MAC is to have people come to events, and we may not be able to do that for a while. So I've been looking at what it would take to be able to produce and help the artists and folks that use the MAC, or to have live streamed concerts there, working with good cameras and switching systems and all that kind of thing, and maybe see that as a venue that might be used for something else, for just to help out. So,
we have
awesome.
that beautiful theater now that has brand new stage curtains that look really nice, and it just sits there so sad. There's no one there, so that would be really nice if we could pull something off safely.
So that's an idea. All right. Any other council members? You have opportunity to address anything you'd like now. Just anybody have any items? All right. Moving on to tentative agenda for next time. We're obviously going to be doing more of the same. We'll need to revisit trails. We'll need to see how the recycle center has worked. But any milestones between now and then on budget, Boyd?
Not for the 11th, no.
Oh, I'm sorry. I know one that I meant to bring up today, and maybe we can have a discussion then on the Old Town sidewalks, because we did not get our multimodal grant. Have you seen the communication from that, Boyd, on that?
Yes, I think that relates to a different project.
I thought Loretta was trying to roll those together.
Well, the ones that we're using for Old Town sidewalks have already been awarded, I believe, and that just came in at the end of the week, and I didn't have time to check on it today, but I believe the one we just got notice on would have been the multimodal that went from the Town Hall complex south to Piper's Path to get us close to Norris Field. So that was a different segment that we had applied for. And I believe that's the one that we just found out we did not get. The Old Town Sidewalk project is awarded. The other two that were rolling into that to help cover costs have already been awarded, and they've agreed to roll those. So I think this is a separate project.
So my mild depression over the fact that the Old Town Sidewalk project died, it didn't die.
I don't think so. Again, I didn't have time to check on it today, but I'm almost positive that that's the one that notice referred to, not the Old Town Sidewalk.
Excellent. All right. Anyone have any agenda items to add?
The one thing I would note on the upcoming agenda, it then has on it the tentative agenda for May 25th, and that is the holiday, and we have rescheduled that to, I believe, the 20th, which will be the budget meeting. And again, we're kind of waiting to see what world we live in as to how that meeting needs to transpire. But as soon as we see where we stand in terms of electronic meetings and all that, I'll get with you guys, and we may know ahead of the 11th, but maybe not. So we'll just have to kind of arrange that as we see.
All right. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion from Susanna and a second from Amy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks, guys.